J'ouvre maintenant la
I
séance.
call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 37 of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. Pursuant to the motion adopted on November 25th, 2025, the committee is resuming its study on monitoring of the rehabilitation services contract awarded to PCVRS. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing order. Members and witnesses can participate in person or using the Zoom application.
I would like to remind members of an email that was circulated on Friday. This is simply a friendly reminder that some members and employees may have sensitivities or allergies to scented products. To ensure everyone's well-being, I invite everyone to avoid wearing heavily scented product in the committee room, like perfume or cologne. I also would like to invite everyone to avoid smoking or vaping immediately prior to committee meetings as much as possible. I would now like to introduce our panel of witnesses for the PCVRS study. As an individual, Mr. Richard Brown, who's, my understanding, you are by video conference. Nice to see you, Mr. Brown. And from LifeMark Health Group, Dr. Steve Burton, psychologist, who's sitting in front of me. So each of you will have 5 minutes to present your opening remarks. Once each witness has spoken, the rest of the hour will be dedicated to a period of questions and answers with the members of the committee. Mr. Brown, I would like to open the floor for 5 minutes to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs, as well as to other distinguished witnesses and veterans in the crowd. To start, I apologize for not being able to attend in person today, but my family and I have been working on helping our older daughter recover from a serious car accident that she suffered last weekend. My name is Richard Brown. I enlisted in the Canadian Armed Forces in January of 2003 at the age of 18. I served 3.5 years in the Canadian Navy as a TASOP and then sonar operator. In May of 2006, while on workups to get ready for the NATO flagship for Iroquois, I suffered an injury that would eventually have to have me take a voluntary release from the CF. In October of 2006, I was honorably discharged and relocated back to the Southern Ontario riding of Niagara West. Over the next few months, I struggled to keep employment as I tried to move on with my life. But in January and February of 2007, I called Veterans Affairs for help. And at the time, I had a great case manager by the name of Tracy Slade, who guided me through all the necessary steps to be diagnosed, and with Dr. Don Richardson from the London OSI. In 2008, I decided to relocate up to the Ottawa area and took into Ottawa West, as well as Barhaven. And I was connected with Veterans Affairs workers, Christine Filiatro, as well as Megan Lamar at Billings Bridge. If I needed help, once again, they were there. In 2011, I attended the inpatient program at St. Anne de Bellevue in Montreal. And at that program, I was always told that if I needed assistance, it was there. That does not exist as what was told back then. Since 2015, the services have been garbage. I relocated back to Southern Ontario after 2 successful diplomas with Voc Rehab Services. And then I was assigned to a case manager who was very unreachable. I was placed on the DEC program, the diminished earning capacity, because they deemed that I had expired all Voc Rehab Services. And then I lost my case manager and I didn't even get assigned a veteran service agent as part of the plan. In 2021, I was reassessed for my mental health condition and it was completed by Dr. Guy Rajka. Over 9 hours, she came back with 2 additional conditions, and it was PTSD as well as alcohol use. And Veterans Affairs denied those reports, took it to BPA, and my lawyer there, Janet Chisholm, told me we had a case, and it took 18 months of waiting for a panel at the review board for a 5-minute meeting, and then another 8 months after for the report to come back as favorable. Just recently, I was able to receive a favorable decision for a knee injury, that I'm awaiting a knee replacement, but just like previous witnesses, I'm ineligible because of my age. And I have a level 1 denial letter in my hand that BAC has denied me treatments and benefits. Over the past 6 years, I've yet to hear from a minister, let alone a parliamentary secretary, including the one on this panel, who received an email from me back in February. PCVRS, if I go through them, is telling me that I have to use their personnel. And in the Niagara region, there is only one occupational therapist. And I've had bad dealings with him in the past, and I've chosen not to use him. And therefore, I am no longer entitled to occupational therapy. That's even if I can get on the VRS program because I'm DEC. It's very insulting. In my spare time, I do volunteer with the Navy League of Canada as a uniformed officer. I am currently the executive officer at the Corps of Niagara Falls. And before I had all these injuries, the physical injuries, I did equestrian riding. And you could tell by the picture in behind me, that's my therapy, a horse. And now I can't even do that because of cuts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown, and thank you for your service and your continuing of your services, sir. I will now invite Dr. Burton for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today in person. My name is Dr. Steve Burton. I am a psychologist with LifeMark Health Group, where I have the privilege of providing services to Canadian veterans enrolled in Veterans Affairs Canada Rehabilitation Service and Vocational Assistance Program, which is the RSVP program we know about. My professional background includes over 25 years of experience in forensic and clinical psychology, working extensively in the areas of trauma, rehabilitation, and psychological assessment. I'm accredited with the College of Psychologists of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. I'm a proud member of the Gitxsan Nation in British Columbia and was a police officer in Alberta for 25 years. This experience has given me a deep understanding of the unique mental health and rehabilitation needs of the veteran population. One of the foundational principles of effective rehabilitation is to thoroughly assess a veteran's current functional state. This is paramount because to develop the most effective and personalized rehabilitation plans, a comprehensive assessment is essential. While respecting the veteran's privacy and confidentiality, this assessment allows us to gain the specific, up-to-date functional details and nuances required to accurately understand their current challenges and strengths. It's also crucial to understand that the definition of rehabilitation within VAC's program is distinct from what many clinicians might traditionally associate with long-term diagnostic-focused care. In the VAC rehabilitation program, our approach is explicitly time-limited and function-based. We target specific impairments directly linked to a veteran's eligible health problems with the overarching goal of restoring functional independence and improving quality of life. This differs from a primary focus on diagnosis alone, as our interventions are geared towards measurable improvements in daily functioning. The rehabilitation program strives for an optimal balance that we recognize the importance of effective and targeted assessments to inform the treatment plans while also being mindful of avoiding over-assessment. This can burden veterans, obviously, with their diagnoses. Our goal is to conduct the necessary evaluations that yield actionable insights, ensuring every assessment serves a clear purpose in advancing the veteran's rehabilitation journey. This leads directly to the importance of outcome measures. These are not merely administrative tools, they are vital for demonstrating growth, allowing us to reanalyze and adapt a veteran's rehabilitation plan to best fit their evolving functional state. By systematically measuring progress, we ensure accountability, validate the effectiveness of interventions, and can make adjustments to optimize the outcomes for each veteran. A common area of inquiry that I receive involves the distinction between rehabilitation services within the VAC rehabilitation program and those available through general community services such as those provided by Medavie Blue Cross providers. It's important to clarify that veterans can absolutely continue with their existing healthcare providers in parallel with the treatment that they receive in the VAC rehabilitation program. We are not aiming to remove established therapeutic relationships. Instead, the program ensures that the assessments and treatments delivered within VAC's rehabilitation program are specifically function-based and are provided by clinicians who have received the VAC specialized training relevant to veteran care and the program's framework. At the core of our work are rehabilitation best practices. This includes adhering to evidence-based approaches, fostering interdisciplinary care where various professionals collaborate around the veteran, setting clear and achievable functional goals, and maintaining a truly client-centered model. This holistic approach ensures rehabilitation that respects the veteran's unique needs and aspirations. From my professional experience, the principles of clear communication, consistent functional goal setting and a collaborative approach with the veteran at the center are paramount. The challenges often lie in navigating complex needs and ensuring integration of services, which we continually strive to improve. Thank you for your time and for this opportunity to share my insights into the work being done to support our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burton. So now we will proceed with the first round of questions. Each individuals will have up to 6 minutes. As I mentioned, and Mr. Brown, you are online. I am also the clock keeper, as I have the pleasure of chairing this committee. So I apologize in advance. I always say, please look, if I do this, if you see me doing this, that means that we have to end the rounds, okay? So we will now start with Mr. Tomey for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'm sorry to hear what you're going through with your daughter, and I think this committee understands that you have to be there and be there for your kids. Mr. Brown, I'd like to start off with you, and I thank you for your service. It looks like we signed up about the same time. January of 2003 is when I was taken in. So we're very, very similar vintage in our service. I'd like to talk to you and ask you about the 9 hours of assessments that you had to go through. Could you kind of share a little bit more about that and what you experienced and how that made you feel?
Yeah, yes, sir. It was probably one of the best assessments I've ever had with Dr. Rajka. I'm sure the committee and former committees have heard of her. She took the time. She has that experience, whereas we actually had to cut one meeting short because she knew she was hitting hard and didn't want to stress me out. So it was all based on what I was feeling, not on her agenda, on her timelines. It was, if it took us 12 hours to do it, great. If it took us 4 hours to do it, great. There was no timeline. Whereas when you go to the operational stress injuries, like in London, they only give you 2.5 hours. That's it. And they're coming up with an assessment on that. Homewood as well. When I was at Homewood for the alcohol use reductions, same thing. Like they got psychiatrists there that are coming up with a diagnosis within an hour. I'm sorry, but that's not proper medicine. With Dr. Rajka, she had everything from day one until the day of my release. And my feelings, like the report was something like 20 pages. And VAC did not even want to accept it right off the bat. So it was very good to go through Dr. Rajka, somebody that was outside of the VAC connection.
So just to be clear, what you're saying is you had a very good experience, although it was lengthy. You were able to share, and they were able to come up with a proper diagnosis, but VAC rejected it. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Brown, you are muted. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, my laptop's starting to go. It's old. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We put it in, and I was supposed to get a decision, and it went from step 3 to complete in 48 hours. And I got notice. I was up at the Glen House doing Veterans Transition Network, and I know they've testified at committee. I was going on the 5-day retreat up there when I got a letter saying, "Hey, it's been denied." And I was not too impressed about that. For something to be open and closed door in 48 hours, did somebody even read that report, or was it just like stamped? And because I waited a long time for it to go from step 2 to step 3.
Right. I've just recently had some meetings with veterans in my office, and one of the things that they've shared with me is they go and have an assessment or they have a meeting with VAC, and then they don't hear anything, or that they've got to wait, or they're waiting on a decision by VAC, or whether it's through the PCVRS, and in that delay, that is when they experience fear, trauma, and numerous other feelings. And so it seems to be that period of waiting does just as much damage as what has happened to them in service. Can you share that? Is that something that you've experienced?
I have, sir. I'm not going to lie right now. I was admitted not once, but twice for suicide idealizations. One was when I lived up in Ottawa. I was admitted to the Queensway Carleton. And probably in 2021, I was admitted to St. Catharines 4th Ave, Niagara Health Systems, for suicide idealizations. It is that deny, delay, die. It is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. I use the wine barrel version where being from the Niagara region, there's all these wine barrels. It's like sitting at the bottom of the barrel and you have that lid on top and it is on top so tight and you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like the mouse trying to get out of the bucket with butter or whatever that one is. It's the exact same situation. And when you call back, they're like, oh, we can't help you. We can't help you. Call the IRO. IRO calls you back. Oh, yeah. Call the ombuds. We can't do much for you.
Okay. I'm just going to switch over just for a minute here. How much more time do I have, Madam Chair?
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Mr. Burton, we've had someone come before us and testify, about the code of ethics in which the Psychotherapy Association has to adhere to, and saying that it's unethical for an organization to come in and force someone to break a relationship that they've already established with a psychotherapist. Do you agree with that?
I would agree. I mean, my practice and everything that I've ever adhered to has been when the relationship is established with a therapist already, and it's a positive relationship, obviously, that you maintain that relationship. And that is part of the assessment that when I conduct them, that is a big question. We're looking at all the providers they've had throughout, their service and time and post-release. And if they are currently seeing someone and they are having benefit and they enjoy that relationship, they feel it's very productive, I recommend that they maintain that relationship.
Okay, because it seems to be that... Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burton. Now for 6 minutes, Mr. Casey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to both of our witnesses for being here. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Burton. I think in your opening statement you indicated that you served as a police officer for 25 years before becoming a registered psychologist.
I was a psychologist while I was a police officer. Yeah.
How did your experience as a police officer inform your practice?
Well, trauma-informed, really. I went through a number of experiences during my service, and I think that is the piece that I think when I hear these issues, obviously the experiences that a lot of the veterans have, they are real. They have happened. This is not to come in and diminish anything like that. I experienced it as well. We didn't have VAC in those days. It was WCB, so I went through the same thing. There's institutional traumas, there's sanctuary traumas that I'm sure the committee is well familiar with. And the idea that all these things that, again, Mr. Brown has just spoken of, the waiting, the anxiety, the self-doubt, self-worth, all of these things, you feel like you've been thrown away by the organization, by the CAF, and then you are feeling discarded or dismissed when you're trying to get this assistance and help. I think there are things within my practice that are more sensitive to these issues because I have been through them myself.
Thank you. One of the things that you said in your opening statement about the way you work now under PCVRS or LifeMark is in a manner to avoid over-assessment. We've heard a lot about over-assessment and administrative burden. So I'd like you to expand a bit on what you mean about or what you're doing in your work to specifically avoid overassessment.
Yeah. With the assessment itself, there's obviously the requirement to, I guess, determine progress within the treatment protocols. How are they doing? How are they, you know, after 3-4 months of treatment? Are we on the right path? So it's evaluating symptoms and determining, you know, do we need to change things up? Do we have to go in a different direction? And it can fluctuate even day to day, but ideally we're not assessing constantly. It's over, again, 3-4 months that we would reassess with some of the outcome measures, not the large psychological tests themselves, but the outcome measures that are just one page, but they depict symptoms, other things that are part of kind of day-to-day functioning for the veterans. The overall full assessment, we'd probably call it, those are done once, and then that's pretty much it. It's the outcome measures that we continue to use to monitor progress or decline.
You indicated that veterans can continue with their own provider even if that provider isn't within the PCVRS or LifeMark network. We've heard conflicting testimony on that. So if you could clarify what you meant by that, and then I'm probably going to ask for Mr. Brown's view of it as well.
And once again, I really have to reiterate that what the veterans have experienced is real. Though that's not in dispute. From my perspective, again, this is something that I haven't personally done because I know the value of that relationship. So for myself, it's never been an issue of you either have this, myself say as the example, or some other provider, but you can't have your own. That's not something that I've ever done, and I've never received that pushback from PCVRS. The idea of having a provider outside of PCVRS would be, I would say, in parallel to potential treatment or a therapist within PCVRS. And by that, I refer to LifeMark primarily, because that's where I operate out of. But that's, yeah, the difference. There is no, at least from, again, my experience, there is nothing that is written or pushed back in regards to another provider not being able to be involved. And maybe that's a communication issue that in all these programs, and from policing, it was never perfect, but I know that in this instance, that definitely communication would be a big thing, because whenever they come in, veterans for OSI, or they're seeing psychiatrists and psychologists already at OSI, the recommendation is for them to just maintain that relationship. And I don't get involved unless they want a change or they want to see me, because often we end up connecting. So
Thank you.
Just due to the experiences, we end up connecting. So I'm very sorry. The time is up. I apologize, Mr. Casey. Now we will go to Madame Gaudreau. And Mr. Brown and Dr. Burton, please note que Madame Gaudreau va vous adresser en français.
We'll be asking her questions in French. So if you're hearing interpretation, that means that services are going well. Ms. Gaudreau, you have 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair. This is our last study, and I would like to thank you for participating. There's a majority of people who came to speak to us or who wrote to us and reported a lack of trust. And this is not a matter of competency. There's probably an issue of communication, but there is also an issue between Veterans Affairs and the program and those who have to go through it. Those are the people who raise the alarm. So this lack of trust What caused it? Is it a lack of transparency? Is it delays?
Again, when we're dealing with transparency, I do believe that's a part of it because, again, it's communication. And from the get-go, when I first meet a veteran, it is outlining all of these things and even explaining some of the delays that they might experience. But again, from a trauma-informed perspective, that from what they've gone through, there's going to be reactions of how the program is received or delays, how that affects them. And so, once again, it's, I think, education combined with communication and the transparency. I definitely believe that is the biggest piece to all of this. And when you hear some of the, and I don't like the word stories, but when you hear the recounting of veterans of their experiences, again, there's almost a human interaction going on that's based upon, and it's not the veterans, it's the human interaction where, again, the education about the program and the knowledge or experiences of the veteran are missed. And that...
La légitimité des...
Veterans want service that reflects them, and I think that you are someone who can show that clinical expertise is essential in order to share information with them, in order to explain the process. And we have noted, and that's probably what happened, veterans had to deal with people who are trained with a more general training, and they are lacking empathy in assisting them completely. You seem to have a good connection with these veterans, but there are other experts who have said that it doesn't work. So is clinical experience essential?
I mean, I would be putting myself out of a job if I said clinical experience was not necessary, but it is, and you're exactly right. If I could have every clinician have time either in the CAF or in policing or some type of first responder type work, we would have no issues whatsoever. But it is perspective. That does come into play. The clinicians that I work with, we work together very well, and I think the knowledge of what I used to do and who I am helps with guiding, you know, their practice and their response to veterans too. I would have to say definitely yes. Again, back to your question, yeah, clinical experience is necessary.
J'aurais une question à M. Brown, mais
I have a question for Mr. Brown, but I would like for us to highlight what we've been focused on since the beginning of the study. We've heard very troubling testimony regarding the program. We've heard from healthcare professionals, and veterans have stated that they believe that the system is too rigid. There's too much red tape. It does not meet their fundamental needs in returning to civilian life. And so I am concerned by what we've heard. It could be isolated cases, but I still believe that Veterans Affairs needs to meet the needs of all veterans. And I know I have only a few seconds left and time is going by very quickly, but I want us to reassure veterans. I'm committed to putting pressure on Veterans Affairs so that you can offer the service that veterans need. And we want to ensure that people like Mr. Brown, that there are no refusals, that you don't see your treatment refused, that there's no lack of proximity anymore. I hope that we'll have more momentum and that things will change. Thank you.
Madame
Thank you,
Gaudreau.
Ms. Gaudreau. That concludes the first round of questions. We're now going to move on to the 5-minute round for Mr. Viersen.
Madam Chair, and thank you for witnesses for being here today. Mr. Brown, I would like to start with you. This fall, the government has an option to renew the PCVRS contract. Would you recommend the government renew that contract?
Thank you, Mr. Viersen. I would recommend that the government does not renew the contract with Mr. Galen Weston, because after all, I used to work for a Loblaw store when I released from the military, and I lost my job because of my injuries. I was still under the 3-month probation in Ontario. That's what it is. So they can let you go anytime. And I was having panic attacks. I was having flip outs and stuff like that. And I couldn't come to work, and they just said, see you later. But ultimately, I'm still awaiting when Mr. Weston's going to be sitting in the House of Commons, because it shouldn't be a dictatorship. It does need to be studied properly. When I went through VRS, it was with the March of Dimes in Ontario, and it was the same crap then as it is now. It's all on what the government wants, and they want timelines because the bureaucrats want it, or their buddies all want it, and it shouldn't be based on that. It should be based up to the veteran, and that's the exact reason why I did that second assessment with Dr. Rajka, because she takes the time to listen and do a proper report. And I'm not saying Dr. Richardson is a bad guy. Dr. Richardson was great at the OSI in getting that going in Montreal. But once again, he's under the pressure of the government. And in Ontario, veterans fall under two systems. We fall under the feds, and then we also fall under the provincial healthcare. And in Ontario, I know it's bad all across, but specifically in Southern Ontario, you can't get help. And with Medavie Blue Cross, they tell me to go, oh yeah, I can go get this person. I call them and they say, we haven't worked with Medavie in 6 years. So there's another problem that we have, is Medavie needs to be held accountable, the transparency, because if you go on their website under licensed providers, half of those people, there was one on there, Terry Semple, who was one of my psychologists. He hasn't practiced med in almost 5 years. But yet he's still listed on there as a provider. Try to figure that one out. So yeah, I hope that it doesn't just say, Mr. Carney say, hey, you know what, Mr. Weston, we're giving you the contract. It needs to be discussed in further.
Is it clear to you at all why the government signed a contract with PCVRS? Like, what specific problem were they trying to solve?
I'm not too aware. Because like I said, I'm just getting back into trying to get some help with my mental health and my physical limitations. And when I'm told I can only use that one therapist who is very pushy, who has their own agenda, it's that level of care. In the new Veterans Charter that was passed in 2006, the veteran is supposed to be able to call the shots, not everybody else, because we all have different tendencies. Every veteran is different. It's not a status quo when it comes down to mental health or physical injuries. So it needs to be looked at in a broader spectrum.
You mentioned in your opening comments that you had to hire a lawyer to get your benefits. Could you talk a little bit about that? And was there legal aid involved or anything like that? Or did you pay for that out of your pocket?
No, I didn't pay for that. I've gone through Bureau of Pension Advocates not once, but twice. Both were for mental health. And both times I got lucky. I had the same attorney with the pension advocates. And I hope that she's not going to lose her contract, because she only took cases if she could win. And she had a 94% success rate. And when she looked at my case, she said, I'm not even going to send this back to department for there, because I know it's going to be revoked, and we're going to go right to VRAB. And it took 18 months to get a hearing that lasted 5 minutes. They asked me 2 questions and I was in and out. And then he's like, yeah, your attorney gave a good, it's looking very favorable. And then I didn't hear back. That was August 2022. I didn't hear back until Valentine's in 2023 with my decision.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you're aware, but the government is cutting the Bureau of Pension Advocates their funding. So that's it's good to hear that you've used them. That's a case in point for not cutting that funding. So I want to thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rearson. Now we will have Mr. Fanjoy for 5 minutes.
Thank you, witnesses. Dr. Burton, I'd like to delve into LifeMark and its relationship with clinicians. You had mentioned that clinicians are the critical part of LifeMark. Are you an employee of LifeMark or a contractor? Do you do work outside of LifeMark as well?
Actually, yeah, I am an employee. So what I was doing was correctional work, working with inmates at Stony Mountain in Winnipeg. So that was, again, another huge trauma point. But with the work that I do do have opportunity to work privately as well on outside of work times, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And given that you can work privately and with LifeMark, I'd be interested in your perspective on what value LifeMark is bringing to this program.
Yeah. I mean, again, experiences vary, obviously. From the clinic side, that LifeMark has a large number of clinics across Canada that can service the number of veterans that are out there. So as far as scale, I think LifeMark is one of the largest that can accommodate all the veterans, or the majority. There are rural or other veterans that prefer to live outside of populated areas, and we do our best, but there is travel obviously related for them if they want to do in-person and other physio-related works. But it combines everything in one place. I think that's the biggest plus when we're talking about a clinic like LifeMark. So again, if you're experiencing anxiety about being in public places, then you really have to just tolerate that for one visit, and you could see your physiotherapist, you could see your occupational therapist, you could see your massage therapist, and then potentially me at the same time. So I always liken it as I do the mental sort of massaging, and then the physical massaging comes after. So that is, I think, the benefit of the model of LifeMark, and my own experience within the clinic that I work has been one where the interdisciplinary team works very well and closely together. So I communicate with the physiotherapist, not out of confidentiality, of course, but due to what behavioral barriers or physical obstacles are they experiencing now, which can relate to, okay, they're experiencing a lot more stress and anxiety now because they're feeling less worthwhile, or their self-esteem is lower because they can't mow the lawn. And these things keep coming up. So sharing that information, seeing, how they're doing is another benefit, I think, of the model.
And now healthcare professionals are used to working together, even when they function privately. So it's your testimony that they're better able to deliver those benefits for veterans under the LifeMark umbrella, the corporate umbrella.
Well, and again, with the general statements, it is applicable when, say, for example, physio will follow a veteran down to come see me with, hot packs and things for their physical pain while I'm addressing and working with them. So it's literally just down the hall, and we have that proximity, but we also have the relationship that makes things easier.
Okay. And a number of veterans live in rural communities. That's where their families are, where their support networks are. It's not always the case that that's where there's ready access to healthcare professionals. How does LifeMark bridge that gap so that veterans can access services that they need when they live in rural communities?
Okay. Most of the time, there are providers, of course, in the community that they can access. And that comes back to, again, not restricting their ability to access those people. And in addition, there's technological abilities like with virtual therapy, et cetera, so that we can communicate via online like this. So we do our best to accommodate, for sure. Yeah, thanks.
Maintenant, nous allons passer à Madame Gaudreau pour 2
We're going to give the floor to Ms. Goudreau for 2.5 minutes. Thank you. Doing one's best, that's what veterans deserve. And it's embarrassing. We're telling them, you're going to be enrolled. You live in a rural community in Canada, and not just in Quebec. There are a lot of rural areas. And then you tell the veteran that they just have to deal with it. They have to drive 2 hours even though their back hurts. It's so problematic. It is unacceptable. Let's say that we carry out this study, we see what's going well and what's not going well, and really deal with reality and not only say that things are going well. My question is for you, Mr. Brown. There needs to be changes. But if there was one thing, one major change, what would it be?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was just waiting for the translation to come through. There's actually 2 I believe could happen. Veterans Affairs, VRS, all of them. They need to start listening to veterans, hire veterans to be case managers. They have the experience. Veterans help veterans. It's proven with the social media sites. Everybody online. I mean, it's crazy. And on top of that, I live 25 minutes from Niagara Air Force Base in Niagara Falls, New York. That's how close I am to Buffalo. And I talk to American veterans all the time through Facebook, social media, whatever. And I'm not going to, their system's messed up like us, but it's getting better. The wait times are getting better. Case managers in the States can approve stuff. In Canada, we have to put it through the rigmarole and everything sits on somebody's desk in Charlottetown because that's where Veterans Affairs head office apparently is, in Charlottetown. You know, so that's how things can be fixed, is hire veterans to work as case managers. And if they do speak out, don't punish them.
Mhm. Ben, ça c'est une répétition.
That's what we've heard, yes. And I would like to thank both witnesses for being with us today. You showed a lot of courage. And for all those who are listening, thank you. And we are going to work for change. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gaudreau, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Burton, I would like to pursue this conversation around a parallel service because this is the first time, regardless of whether those that came were part of LifeMark or on that other tranche that didn't quite qualify. This has not been an option. It's been made very clear to veteran after veteran that unless they do it this way, they will lose their IRB. So please explain to me, they'd have to pay for 2 different services that to me would be 2 psychologists at the same time?
In only the sense that if it's determined through whatever process, and the process is, again, assessment, determining that, okay, that there are additional avenues of treatment. For example, if an individual is seeing a therapist, but they only see them monthly, but then I assess them, and I'd like to see them more frequently because they have...
How is that paid for?
Through
how
PCVRS and VAC.
Okay, so
Yeah.
VAC will cover their parallel service
Yes.
at the same time as basically VAC is paying for PCVRS
That is
to
my understanding.
qualify.
Yes.
So how many veteran patients would you see in the course of the times? When did you first be recognized as a provider?
Was December 2022.
Okay, so can you give me an idea of how many veterans you've served over the course of this time?
It would be hundreds, yes, like
Hundreds
several hundred, yeah.
that have made it through the entire process of being assessed and then getting the vocational care they need and then
Yeah.
done?
Well, but here is, I guess, the other piece is that not all make it to the vocational step. And that is where, from my perspective, and this is where I've had a lot of support, is that sometimes the veteran isn't going to be returning to work. There's so much that they are experiencing, and what we want to do is have them have a good quality of life, like just to improve their.
So then, in that case, you would say,
Yeah.
okay, this person, from your perspective, can't return to work, so they're encouraged to realize they can't, and so then they move off of that whole opportunity at that point in time. Can you give me some feedback on that? Because I get the impression that they feel like they're being churned through the mill way too quickly, and that they don't maybe qualify, as I'm hearing here, due to a lot of dynamics that, as was mentioned by Mr. Brown, his assessment outside of this program versus the process within it.
And again, it's really disheartening to hear the stories like Mr. Brown's. My own experience has been where people have worked through the program, and it's been something where it's been literally years. We continue to work through the program. I've never personally been pushed. I've never been pushed to.
Longest term that you've spent with one particular veteran to get from A to B, like through the program?
I'm still ongoing with some from 2022 that I'm still working with. And it's a transition where the program has allowed for extensions of treatment and also to the progression into DEC, so this diminished earning capacity. So
That's the preference a lot of times I hear from VAC, that they just want it. A number of veterans have come to me wanting alternative to that, and they just get pressured and pressured and pressured to finally just accept that as, so in your mind, they're misguided in thinking that they can do more?
no, I don't think they are misguided. I think it's just from the time that the program is set up for, which is 2 years.
That's my next question here, because you talk about a comprehensive assessment and that the program is time-limited and function-based. So what is the time limit regardless of that veteran? You've got some that have been there since 2022.
Yes, and that's where the flexibility comes in, because I've experienced the fact that the extensions of treatment for the veterans has continued, and I know, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting
Yeah.
you. Who decides that they get to continue on?
I would imagine it's through the VAC case manager and the RSS, the rehabilitative
Just
service.
don't, in my mind, get to make those kinds of decisions. It's coming from somewhere else.
I'm making a decision, obviously, that they need to continue on with treatment, and then whoever approves it, I don't know that process.
I think that's something that we need to know and that the veteran needs to know very clearly, because I hear often as well that they go into these situations, they're told that it's interdisciplinary and it's collaborative, and they don't find it that way at all. They're told this is it. This is what you need to do, and no, you can't use your previous provider if you want to get your IRB.
Yeah.
This is what we face.
Yeah, and this is, again, I think, coming back to the communication and transparency, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker and our last for this round, Mrs. Ertl, for our last 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, I guess it is now, gentlemen. Nice to have you both here. Mr. Brown, if I may, I'm relatively new to the committee, and I'm trying to understand all these terminologies and how it all works. So you mentioned that I believe you had been approved for diminished earning capacity. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I was. And that was in 2018, I believe. And it was offered to me because Doc had pretty much deemed that I am not worth taking more time with. Um, it was just the level of care. They were like, yeah, you should take this because it's going to be harder if you don't take it. If you don't do it now, the wait times and we've expired all your options. You've gotten your 4 years of post-secondary, one with an honors diploma in legal office administration. And they said, well, yeah, there's the door. See you later. And there was promises made in 2014. And I believe it was that's in Kingston. And Mr. Trudeau was there with Miss McCrimmon, Mr. LaRue from Petawawa. All of them were there. And they promised changes within Veterans Affairs. Reopening the offices. Okay, big deal. Reopened it, but they didn't bring back case managers. He brought back veteran service agents. And veteran service agents cannot approve funding. When I went to VTN, I had to wiggle. And when I call back now and I say I would like to talk to somebody in my Hamilton district office, which is 45 minutes from me, I never talk to anyone there. And I can't even go in person because they do not have anybody working in person. And so I'm talking to people in Trenton. I'm talking to people in North Bay. I'm talking to people in Windsor. They don't help. And when I did ask to speak to somebody, I got told I wasn't allowed because it's conflict of interest. Because a caseworker's husband, I voted for him in the last municipal election. And that's considered conflict of interest? Wow. So that's what I mean. It's bullying. You get bullied, and if the veteran like myself stands up, eventually they do say, you know what, we're going to cut you off. Like, enough. We're doing this, and I get it. They have pressures. The case managers, God love them, they take so much brunt, and I can't even verbally express my anger at times because if I swear, it's not aggressive. It's just that's the way the military people speak. Because we're expressing an emotion and we're being that we're not allowed to do that. So yeah, the deck is nice, but once you get on deck, you're a dead veteran. That's the way I feel. And and my wife jokes about it too. She goes, make sure that you don't die before you're 65. Because if that happens, she gets next to nothing.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. In my last minute and a half, I will switch. Do I have almost 2 minutes? Okay, great. Well, not now. Dr. Burton, I will ask you a question, please. So from your experience, what elements of the program would you say are working and should be strengthened?
Well, I think from the treatment perspective of getting, obviously, the veterans in is the actual on-the-ground work, I think, is working. It's the other pieces getting to that point that need work. And it's going to be, again, the reduction maybe in delays from the point that they are admitted into the program to actually getting treatment. Usually it's about 30 days, but I would like to see it happen sooner. Resourcing, of course, from an RSS perspective, like the people that are doing those intakes and some of those preliminary sort of assessments of the needs before they come to myself for the full psychological assessment. That, I think, would be much more beneficial. But those are the things I think that are working well. It's the other parts that I think are more important that can be addressed through more education, more training, and making people more aware. Like, we do have the training for like veteran culture, military culture, but I think we can do a lot more, because when I'm talking to a veteran who's gone through just horrible things organizationally, but also out in the field, I can relate to that. I can relate to the smells and everything, but others can't. And I think that's where we need to really focus some of our energies on.
That's my time. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you very much, everyone. This will conclude our round of questions. Yes, Mr.
Madam Chair.
Richard, I understand you have your hands up. Please bear with me. I'm just going to say thanks to our...
Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Burton for joining us. And Mr. Brown, thank you very much for participating. I understand this is not only from a personal perspective, but you also have a family dynamic that prevented you, and you still took the time. So, sir, I wish you the very best for your daughter and her recovery, and I hope that things are okay. Thank you for spending the last hours with us, and thank you for your service again, sir. So this has concluded our round of questions. Just from a logistic, we will have our next meeting on Wednesday, June 10th. For the first hour, we will have witnesses to complete our motion for the first hour for our study on PCVRS. And for the second hour, we will go into in-camera as prescribed in our motion that was adopted in our committee for the instruction of the redaction on the report of PCVRS and our Black veterans experience. Mr. Richards, I have a minute left, and then I will ask for adjournment. So I just want to know, how can I help you, sir?
Sure. I move that the committee invite the Minister of Veterans Affairs to appear before the committee for no fewer than 2 hours on the supplementary estimates A 2026-2027 on or before June 17th, 2026.
Thank you. Mr. Casey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion to change 2 hours to 1 and to delete everything after the comma. That would allow for us to be able to. That would be something that the Liberal side would be able to support. The rationale for it is this: first, the supplementary estimates A are going to be approved by the House of Commons tonight, so there's no urgency. Second, the amount of the supplementary estimates with respect to Veterans Affairs is less than $2 million, which is relatively minor when looking at the full amount of supplementary estimates and the full budget at Veterans Affairs. And third, a timeline of 9 days for the minister is not something that she can do, and she would be able to make time to speak to this before the committee in the fall. So for all those reasons, I propose that amendment to the motion, and if that's agreeable to everyone, then we can support it.
Do I have, because as I say, I know I have an important meeting on June 10th, and everyone wants to see those witnesses. We have about 45 seconds left, so I just want to make sure that we can agree. Briefly, Madame Gaudreau.
Qu'on recap.
Just a recap. We only have 40 seconds left. But we'd have to reread the amendment because I would like to know if we would be able to meet with the minister before the summer break. We would be removing that deadline that would have us see the minister before June 17th. The reason is that it won't be possible for the minister to appear before the end of this parliamentary session, but she is willing to appear before the committee in September or October. So as soon as we're back in September, if we know that she's not available right now, we could have it in our calendar that way. We have to keep in mind the minister's obligations, but I wouldn't mind if we have it by the end of October. That would give us 6 weeks after Parliament resumes, if that's what you would like. But I suggested to remove the deadline, but if you would like a more specific deadline, that's fine.
Understanding, if I understand this, there was a amendment to a possibly sub-amendment to a hopefully finalized, friendly way of addressing the motion of Mr. Richards that would ask the minister to appear, and I understand she's been quite good in appearing in front of this committee. I have to say thanks to the minister and her team. At the same time, we would open that prior to October, if I understood, just for everyone to understand, or for the first 6 weeks. Mr. Casey, I just need language. Fin October. So before the end of October. Am I okay? I see some nodding. We're comfortable?
On division.
On division? Okay, so we have this motion on division. And Mr. Le Greffier, you're good with the language? Parfait. Okay, so again, thanks to our witnesses.
Chair, pardon me, on a point of order, Chair. I think we would still have to vote on the main motion now. That was on the amendment, correct?
So I was we were trying to get everything on division, but we are more than happy in voting on the new motion.
No, Chair, I'm not suggesting we need a standing vote. I oppose the amendment, so we were on division on that, but we obviously support the main motion, and that's why I wanted to make sure there was a distinction there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. Est-ce que plaît-il au comité d'ajouter?
Is it the will of the committee to adjourn the meeting?